My boyfriend keeps stealing my opinions, hobbies, and even my recipes just to look smart in front of others. When I called him out, he cried and said I was too sensitive. Posted by you/throwerfox of mystery. I know this sounds dramatic, but hear me out. I don't think I would have really noticed it if we weren't both working from home and living together, but my boyfriend constantly copies things that I say and do, and repeats them to friends and coworkers as if they're his own original ideas. And it's not just that he repeats them, but 99% of the time, he does it with things that when I say them, he argues with me about. Example 1. We watched a TV show on Netflix a couple months ago. I brought up that while I liked it, it had some pretty problematic stuff regarding the way it treated women, and LGBTQ plus women in particular. I'm bisexual. He really argued with me and wrote off the things I brought up, making excuses regarding how Hollywood is, and saying I was being too sensitive. The next day, I heard him in our living room talking to his friends on Skype about it. He brought up my exact points, using my exact wording as if it was his own idea. I enjoyed it, but I try to be sensitive about this issue, and this was something I noticed, that type of thing. They praised him for his progressive thinking, and it rubbed me the wrong way, but I tried to forget about it. This sort of thing has happened over and over, like multiple times a week. Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's a book I'm reading, sometimes it's life advice regarding work. I started noticing it, and now I don't think we've had a similar argument without him later repeating what I say to other people like it's his idea. Sometimes it has to do with things I know a lot about. For instance, very specific skills that I have but he doesn't. He will talk to people as if he has those skills and has done those things, when he's talking about things he's seen me do. Example 2. The last straw came when I made him a special dish that I love, and the recipe is one I developed over years. It's very time-consuming, but he loved it. He asked me to make more, and I did because I was pleased he liked it. I spent a whole afternoon doing it, and I made extra so that he could take some with him to a work meeting to share. He told me he would brag about what a talented girlfriend he had, and it made me feel really happy. The day after, I heard him in a Zoom meeting with his coworkers, and they were all talking about how good this dish was. And they kept talking about how surprised they were he was such a good cook, and how he'll have to cook more for them. He was acting very humble, saying thank you, and even mentioning ways he had perfected the recipe. And the only mention of other help was he offhandedly said that a friend had helped him with some of the prep work. Later, I told him that I overheard him and what he had said. At first, he got really defensive. He told me that he was caught off guard and that afterwards, he came clean to them, although I didn't hear that part. I told him it made me feel bad, like I was unappreciated, and it took away things that I love and am proud of about myself. Then, he got upset and said that he just hates feeling like a failure or like he can't do something, and he felt like a terrible person for hurting me. He apologized, but I felt like the conversation had kind of turned into one about him and his vulnerabilities, and no longer about how it has hurt me. Now, I've heard him do similar things multiple times again. I feel like it's ridiculous to bring it up again because it will start a fight that won't mean anything, but it's making me crazy. Am I being too sensitive? Should I just let it go, or is it worth bringing it up again? And if so, how? Relevance comments. Commenter 1. What I am wondering is why you want to be with someone who doesn't have a single independent thought, who steals your identity, who disregards your feelings and accuses you of being too sensitive when he's the one lying and presenting a false mask to the world. The problem here isn't your boyfriend. It's why you're willing to put with someone who clearly has some character issues. This is who he is. He has little regard for how you feel about any of this. He's unlikely to change. Op response. I didn't really realize all of this was happening until recently. It's making me reevaluate other little things as well. Most of our time together, we've both been very independent and busy with our careers, so we didn't have many situations where I would have noticed that. Then we moved in together and I lost my job, thanks COVID a couple months ago, so I have more time to think and notice these things, and leaving is more complicated than it previously would have been. I have very few connections near me and limited savings. But trust me, I'm not blind now. Commenter 2. I dated someone who did this sometimes, not as much as your boyfriend, but that's okay because he did other really shitty stuff. What it boiled down to for this guy was a couple of things. The biggest was that he was extremely passive-aggressive. Giving me credit for saying something smart was just out of the question for him. It would feel like he was letting me win because for him, every interaction was a win-lose scenario, and he hated to lose. The other related reason he did it was that he didn't want to reinforce in people's minds the idea that I was his girlfriend. Commenter 3. Yeah, good point. Why did he tell his coworkers, a friend, Helped him with the recipe. Do they even know who he lives with? Op response. I have been wondering that myself after reading these comments. He claims he talks about me, and I know that his best friends and his family knows because I've hung out with them. But I realize now I have no idea if his coworkers or other friends even know if I exist. Or they do know I as a person exist, but they don't know we're anything other than roommates. Update 5 weeks later. Long story long. After reading all of your comments, I didn't want to jump to conclusions based on things strangers on the internet said, but certain things really gave me pause. I realized that the problem was much bigger than the issue I had originally posted about. I had been writing off some things in my relationship that had already given me some concerns, but I blamed on my anxiety or insecurity. I won't go into them for sake of length. Things really began to click when I took people's advice to look up gaslighting and narcissistic personality. So, I began to take note of those small things and also do a little digging. Mostly, I began to realize I was being gaslit, a term I didn't understand before posting here, and lied to. Biggest concern of all. I found out that he manipulated me and created a fake crisis that made me think my old living situation was in jeopardy, which was the reason I moved in with him. I can't go into more details or someone will definitely identify me. But I had been unsure about moving in with him, and that crisis had pushed me over the edge, and I now realize it was how he controlled me and isolated me from my friends. Suffice it to say, at that moment I was ready to leave. But now that I knew how far he would go, I was scared to break up with him until I had an escape plan. So I decided to write down everything that happened so I couldn't be gaslit anymore. And as soon as I made that decision, it's like things just fell into my lap. I found out that he was constantly looking up exes and girls he had met on dating apps in the past, many of whom were friends with me on social media. He let me use his laptop, and I saw his Facebook search history. Some light digging revealed that he was receiving flirtatious messages from girls, and while nothing overt happened, he definitely avoided mentioning he was in a relationship to them. I caught him texting the girl who he talked to before me. It ended badly, and trying to reconnect even though she didn't want to. She told him to fuck off and ended up blocking him and even deleting most of her social media. I never found out why they didn't work out, but I'm guessing he was an asshole. And then, completely on accident, I was messaged by one of his female friends whom I had met a couple times. Turns out they had met on a dating app and had gone on 3 dates while he and I were together early in our relationship. We compared texts and found evidence of him lying to both of us and gaslighting me. There's even a chain where I mention he is being cold to me and asking if something is wrong, and he convinces me that it was my anxiety making me read too much into things again. All while texting me from his date with her. Even more small stuff I won't go into. Yesterday, I found a temporary place to live. Today, I broke up with him after laying all of the shitty things he did out in front of him. He lied multiple times even during the conversation. He didn't know I had receipts and proof, and boy did his tune change when I pulled that out. He tried to convince me that all of it meant nothing, and make me feel sorry for him by talking about his childhood and how he has insecurity issues. I told him that we all have issues, and while that explains his behavior, it doesn't excuse it. And he can't use trauma as an excuse to traumatize others. I told him he can stay in our apartment, but he can't talk to me. I don't want to interact with him, and after we move I want him out of my life completely. I found a place to live although it's smaller and farther from work, but I'll do whatever it takes to get out. I can move in the 1st of November. This has low-key messed me up a bit. I never had trust issues before, and I feel like I am completely doubting my own judgment. I was so sure of myself before. But I know once I'm out that things will be better, and I feel like there's a weight off my shoulders. Although I admit I feel like a total idiot for not figuring things out sooner. I want to say thank you to everyone who commented and gave advice. You all helped open my eyes. This has been really crappy, but I know I've learned a lot and won't make those same mistakes again. Relevance comments. Commenter 1. How can you have trust issues when you succeeded in identifying a narcissist liar, learning about a way to manipulate you didn't know about, gathering evidence, confronting the abuser, and moving out safely? I understand why you feel bad about yourself, but you should really think about the way you handled it so it didn't end badly. Op response. This honestly made me tear up. I didn't think about it like this, and it really did make me feel better. Thank you. Commenter 2. Wow, this is insane. It's so scary to think you don't really know the person you are sharing a bed with. I'm so happy you were able to take a step back to see what was really happening. I hope you can heal from this awful relationship and forget about him. I would like to say I am so proud that you and the girl you interacted with in no way were rude to each other and knew that this was all his fault. Not everyone is mature enough to understand that's so good on the both of you, and I would just like to draw attention to something you said. He can't use trauma as an excuse to traumatize others. This, girl. Just because people have had it rough doesn't give them license to be a shitty person, and I'm so happy you didn't let him guilt trip you again. Wishing you all the best. Op response. Thank you so much for your kind words. It truly means a lot. I'd like to give credit to the other girl as well. She messaged me to ask about something totally unrelated, and when she mentioned their history and I asked the timeline, I was honestly terrified of her reaction. But she was very kind and supportive, and we exchanged numbers and worked the details out together. She had been cheated on before and gave me some really good advice and has been consistently kind. We currently text back and forth about unrelated things, usually our plant babies haha, and I couldn't have asked for a better reaction from her. Throwaway account because some of my family has my main one. The people I will mention in this are my mum, Jen 50, my stepdad, Brian 56, my brother, Tom 23, and my sister, Ruth 26. For background, Jen and Brian have been together since I was 11. Well, I say that, but 11 is the age I became aware of their relationship, as she asked if we would be okay with him moving into the family home. Prior to this, she never mentioned dating anyone, and we had never spent any time with Brian. None of our other immediate relatives ever mentioned him to us, either. The day Jen asked us, Ruth was sat next to me and asked to be excused to her bedroom. Tom was not home to have an input. I was stuck by myself with Jen, who did not seem to understand how she completely blindsided us. She had no interest in answering my question about why she had not told us. Her only interest was knowing if we accepted this stranger moving in. Brian moved in the following week. After Brian moved in, there were several times where both he and Jen threatened to move away without me, Tom and Ruth. They would say, if you don't like it, they will get a new house and start over. This threat could be in relation to something like Brian telling me I shouldn't be anywhere in the house except for my bedroom and me standing up for myself. I used to get called stupid by Brian a lot. If I did something he didn't like, such as finish my homework before going to dinner, he would say, only someone this stupid wouldn't think to eat first. Any grievance I had with Brian was never acknowledged by Jen. If I raised an issue with her, she would deflect and change the subject. Brian would cause a lot of problems knowing that there were no consequences for him. Brian never concealed the fact that he wanted Jen, and only Jen. We were her baggage that he only had to put up with for so many more years. Tom, Ruth and I were no longer taken on family holidays. The last one we got to go on was when I was my godmother's bridesmaid and she had a destination wedding. I was 10. Jen and Brian would go on 3 holidays a year without us. Living under that roof was the loneliest I had ever felt. The second I became of age, I bought my first apartment and moved on. No more Brian, no more Jen. Tom and Ruth wanted to come with me, but Jen wouldn't allow it, and honestly, I don't know how I was to fight for them. I was working long shifts, sometimes nights. Though Ruth was a year younger than me, Tom was not. I doubt a court would appoint a fresh 18-year-old as their guardian with Jen in the picture. One thing I did leave in Jen's care was my valuable book collection. I won't disclose exactly how much it is worth, but it is in the 7-figure range. Some of these books were my inheritance. I was always told that they are to be looked after, never to be played with, and has to be stored correctly. I couldn't do that in my apartment, so Jen continued to keep them for me. I had no reason to distrust her with them. Earlier today, I called Tom as I was traveling home from seeing a friend. Tom mentioned that he had gone to Jen's house to collect some things. Because he was there, I asked Tom to find out if Jen had managed to get the remainder of my books authenticated. She and I had spoken about doing so a few weeks prior. Tom asked Brian about my books, and then Brian laughed and said, "What books? My books?" Tom said, "No, her books that you have been looking after." Brian then repeated, "My books." I was listening to this through Tom's headphones, so I told him to get Brian to clarify. Tom asked Brian what he meant by his books. Brian said, "They're ours now. We bought them." My heart sank the moment I heard him say that. Jen was not home. I tried calling her, no answer. Eventually, she called me back a couple of hours later, but not before Brian called me a pathetic liar, and also spoke ill of Ruth and made claim to her books, which she had in fact sold years ago, still insisting mine were also his property. To confirm, I never sold anyone a single book. They did not buy me any books. All the books in my collection are to be sold at a future date or passed down to my children. Brian and Jen never gave me a single penny, so I can confirm this is not the case. Jen was unwilling to confront him about it. I am not allowing them to steal part of my children's inheritance. Jen agreed that she never bought my books, but Brian refuses to give them back to me. I told Jen that her inadequacy as a parent, failure to reprimand Brian over the years, and her lack of love for her own children has meant this moment was a long time coming. I said something along the lines of, "You neglected me. You allowed him to take my happiness away for years. You let him walk all over me. I will not let you steal from my children. If this is how it has to be, I will take you to the cleaners. I will report you both for theft. I will sue you for everything I can. I will cut you out of my life again. You mean nothing to me. I am not in need of legal advice on this. I have a lawyer. I just to know if I was out of line for what I said to Jen. I was very emotional at the time. Thank you if you read all of this. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I don't think you were out of line. They were sucky parents. You told the truth. I have to ask though, is it documented that the books were left directly to you? Do you have a copy? Op response, I do. I have payment receipts for the authentications, as I have to send them abroad to get them done. I keep a spreadsheet so I can update it. Everything has been paid for by me, and I can prove my ownership. I also have messages from Jen where we discuss my collection, including the number of books, their names, value, etc. Commenter 2, I would take the documents to the police station and ask them to provide an escort while you get your property back from your previous home. Don't give any warning that you are going to do this. Op response, you're actually required to give notice about collecting property because it is called a breach of peace, and access has to be given by those living at the property. In the case of this being theft, they could retrieve it for me with a warrant, but then it would probably become evidence. Civil vs. criminal. Commenter 3, some of them will be missing if you don't move them. How about renting a temperature-controlled storage unit and moving them permanently? Seriously, don't trust him or your flaky mom. Op response, I bought a house and had storage made to specific requirements so that I can move my books to my property. That's partly why I wanted to know if she had sorted the other books for me. I'd rather move them all in one go and avoid seeing Brian. Commenter 4, NTA, obviously, but I think we all want to hear some backstory about how a teenager acquired a 7-figure book portfolio. Assuming we're not talking Pakistani rupees or something. Op response, I think I mentioned above mostly inheritance. I added to my collection over the years. I wasn't a teenager when I inherited them, I was a child. Due to me being a child, Jen had physical care of them, but I was allowed to see them at any time and she respected my wishes when it came to them. When I got my first job at 16, I had them valued by an appraiser. The value of books, especially the kind I have, appreciate over time. I am from the UK. Update, 2.5 weeks later. I am sorry for leaving things so long. I was busy with the situation, then traveling, and I thought it would be best to leave things until it was fully resolved. It has been a little over 2 weeks, but it has felt like an eternity. I'll start off by saying there is good news and bad news. The good news, I got my books back, all of them, unscathed. They are physically in my possession and will remain in my care indefinitely. The bad news, I did not take Jen and Brian to the cleaners. Ultimately, my goal was to get my books back, no matter the route I had to take to do so. I'm sure you'll mostly agree that it was a good outcome either way, even if I am not suing my parents. I'll keep the rest of this as brief as possible. After speaking with Tom, I had already contacted my lawyer to set things in motion. They had advised that they would contact Jen and Brian as a matter of urgency. Not long after speaking with me, Jen had contacted Ruth to try and convince her to get me to speak with her. It was only going to be her attempt to get me to back down. I do not bluff. She knows this. Ruth said she told Jen that she hopes I do follow through with things, and then she ended the call. Jen tried to call back, Ruth ignored her. Then it was Tom's turn. Jen tried to get Tom to talk to me and Ruth. Jen was still in agreement that my books were mine, but Brian still was not having any of it, and Jen was not putting him in his place. Tom said he agreed with what I was doing. I was told that Brian was shouting obscenities about me in the background. Things like, ungrateful bitch. You get the picture. Tom told me they deserve it and so much more. My lawyer had contacted them on my behalf 2 days later. All contact with me was to go through the firm from then on. This is what Jen told me happened after they were contacted as I was packing up. It was a one-sided discussion. She told Brian that he needed to stop trying to claim my books. If he was intent on keeping them, he needed to make me an offer of their current value plus 30%. But if I said no, it means no. How honorable of her. Brian was still adamant he didn't need to offer me anything because the books already belonged to them, and I won't be getting anything. He also did not seem to think that I would win a legal battle against them, despite Jen confirming I had everything that meant they were guaranteed to lose. A couple more days later, my lawyer said that Jen reached out to them on her own and said that she wanted me to retrieve all of my books. I had already made them aware that Brian was an issue because of his presence at the family home, but she assured them that he would be gone for the whole day, out of our city. Some days ago, I arranged for suitable transportation for the books to my house. A few days ago, I went to collect the books. When I got to the family home, Brian's car was not in the garage or front patio, which they always are whenever he is home, so I proceeded into the house. I know he would have tried to provoke me, even though I am not a violent person, because he wants to have a way to make me squirm. I walked right past Jen and went to where the books were. Brian has never been granted access by Jen, so they were perfectly secure, and I loaded them all into the van. It took a while. Brian won't notice they're gone because he has never been able to get into that room, and Jen probably won't say anything. Even if she does, neither of them know my address. Jen was talking to me throughout, trying to get me to sit with her to speak like adults. She was saying cliché things like she regrets how she treated me and blah, blah, blah. If she had said all of this years ago, maybe I would have listened, but even now I had to retrieve my own possessions in secret because she couldn't stand up for me as she should have. Words are empty. I did not say a word the entire time. My lawyer said everything that needed to be said, including that as long as Jen and Brian do not try to falsely make claim to my books, the matter was resolved once they were returned to my custody. Once I finished loading everything, I returned my keys to the family home. Jen tried to convince me to keep them, but I have no intent of returning there. The truth is that place stopped being the family home the day Brian moved in. I have zero happy memories of it. My old room makes me sad to think about because it is a constant reminder that it was the only place I was permitted to be. Even writing this hurts. I needed my parent to look out for me. She failed in all other aspects apart from these books. I wish Jen had loved me like a parent should. But yes, I have my books back. That's a good outcome. Thank you for the earlier support on the previous post. That is all from me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. That's a good update, op. Your family is your siblings. I kind of feel bad for Jen because she will soon find out she's alone in the world the moment she realizes what kind of scum Brian is. But just a wee little bit bad. Op response. She and Brian have their own child now. They got their wish and I hope it was worth it. Commenter 2. What happened with your sister's books? Were they indeed gone? Is she going to sue them? Would she have the same proof that you have? How did your mother keep the books away from him for all this time? Op response. Ruth mentioned selling some to Jen and Brian years ago, maybe 10 now. She didn't want to sell them, but she needed the money to move out. The only way Brian was going to allow Jen to give it to her was in exchange for some books. If I had known at the time, I would have given her the money myself. I found out years later. There are boxes of books that belong to Ruth still in the room. She said she will keep them there for now. I will help her to move them when the time comes. The ones Jen and Brian bought were removed long ago to his own storage. It is a little difficult to explain how the room is, but the door is a heavyweight security door. It has a smart lock, and Brian never got access to it. Imagine a more regular-looking safe room. I think that is the easiest way to explain it. Entering the room triggers the security system, like going home and having to put the alarm code in. Jen never needed to use this room once we got older, so Ruth and I were permitted to change the code. This ensures that Brian could never enter without us knowing, even if Jen betrayed us by giving him the code to the door, which she never has. Jen upgraded the security after Brian moved in. It is, in essence, a multi-purpose panic room. I'm sorry, I don't know how to explain it any better. I hope it is clear. 24F. Am a single mom to my son, Owen 8. It's been just us since day one. His father isn't in the picture and has been able to avoid child support for years now. Yes, I've tried everything. My own parents disowned me. I had to drop out of high school and have worked a myriad of jobs since then to keep us afloat. We aren't on the poverty line by any means, but we definitely live paycheck to paycheck in a one-bedroom apartment. It's not ideal and I hope within the next couple of years we'll be someplace bigger. For now, it's our situation. I've raised Owen to know that money isn't everything. We may not have a lot. He won't always have the newest this or that. But we have each other. The two of us are very close. He has never gone without the basics, but I admit, he doesn't get a lot of fun extras. I try to save a little here and there to make birthdays and holidays fun, but it's still never anything glamorous. And I think Owen was fine with that. Until recently, anyway. In our area, all the public schools are based on a lottery system, so your child has a fair shot of going to any of them, so long as you put in their name. Our neighborhood school is not great and in a pretty crappy area, so I decided to put him in a different one across town. It's near my job, so it works out. Last year, when he was in second grade, he met Charlie. They began hanging out a lot after school, with Owen going to his place. I met Charlie's parents, Nate and Paige, a couple of times before this began. They seemed very nice and supportive. Owen always had a great time at their house. Charlie occasionally came to our apartment, but usually they were at his place. Which made sense. I work and there's really not much for them to do here, even when I am off. Summer breaks are easy to find care, as there are several free or low-cost camps that I can put Owen in. It's the shorter breaks, such as Christmas and spring, that are harder. Camp space is limited. Spring break of 2022, I managed to just miss registration. Paige is a stay-at-home mom and offered to take Owen for the week. I was hesitant to ask so much of her, but she insisted. He had a really fun time with them. They did a ton of activities, and Paige refused my attempts to pay her back at least some. I couldn't afford all. I admit I did feel a tad uncomfortable with her spending this much on my son, but at the same time, I didn't want to deprive Owen of this stuff. Summer came, and while I did get Owen into camp, he spent a ton of time with Charlie as well. He ended up going on vacation with them. I was again very hesitant, but the experience was something I could never give Owen, and it wasn't too far away. He had a blast. I kept telling Nate and Paige that there's no way I could ever pay them back, and they kept insisting that they loved having Owen around. They told me what a great kid he is. Sweet, respectful. At one point, I really pressed Paige as to why she was so insistent on having Owen around so much. That's when she told me that they never planned for Charlie to be an only child, but all attempts at giving him a sibling just didn't happen. They know that Owen will never make up for not having a brother, but if they can give him a consistent playmate so he's not lonely, they'll do it. Should this have been a red flag? Maybe. But at the same time, I found it sweet that the boys considered each other brothers. I thought it was innocent. Surely, Paige and Nate knew the truth. This continued for a bit, and come Christmas break of 2022, Paige and Nate insisted that I not even bother to try to get Owen into a camp. They'd take care of him for me. I was grateful. They ended up getting him more Christmas gifts than I did. I tried to set my pride aside because it was about Owen, not me. This is still when things finally started seeming off to me. I understood a gift on his birthday, and while they didn't get him as many gifts as they got Charlie, it was a lot more than you would typically get your kid's friend. Fast forward to now. Spring break was last week, and this time, Paige and Nate didn't just offer to take care of him during the day while I worked. They asked if Owen could spend the entire week at their house. Honestly, it meant I could pick up some more shifts and save up for the bike Owen wants for his birthday. So, I said yes. I went to pick him up on Saturday afternoon. The kids were playing out back, so Nate and Paige asked to talk to me. They sat me down and said they love Owen and he's always such a joy to have. I thanked them profusely for all they'd done for him. Paige suggested that Owen stay a little longer. I pointed out Easter was Sunday plus school started up on Monday. They said they could take him to school. I felt weird and said no, it was time for Owen to come home. That's when Nate suggested that Owen stay with them long term. I could still see him, but they would take care of him. I thought they were joking and said, like what, you'd be his guardians or something? They got quiet and the reality rushed over me. I pointed out that this wasn't a movie. They can't just get custody. They started spouting some legal stuff about how I could assign them as guardians, and they would help make this transition smooth. They told me to think about Owen and what's best for him. I told them there was no way in hell I was going to give up my son. I grabbed Owen and we left. I've blocked their numbers. Owen has no clue what's going on. I'm keeping him home tomorrow and took the day off work to figure some stuff out. Legally, they can't take him. But now I know what they want and I'm terrified. I don't want him going back to that school. Do we move? I'm so lost. And I feel so stupid because looking back, all the warning signs were there. I know Owen is going to be devastated losing Charlie, Paige, and Nate. How am I ever going to explain it to him? Update. Later that day. While I understand those saying they potentially meant well and weren't trying to be offensive, it's still a risk I can't take. It's not like they offered to take him every so often. They wanted him full-time, permanently. To those who said I should just let them, please pass me whatever drugs you are on. I will never give up my son. Do we have the newest this or that? No, we have our needs met. I love my son and I am not letting him go. As for everyone else, I took your advice and reached out to the school. I told them that Paige and Nate are no longer allowed to pick up Owen, and explained I do not feel safe with them around each other. They understood. There's not much they can do outside making sure they never pick him up. It's too late in the year to move classes, but next year, Charlie and Owen will not be in the same class. I notified the police, but again, they can't do much. We have zero in writing, and a simple request to have my child isn't really breaking any laws. Unfortunately, all I can do is hope they don't try anything. I still haven't spoken to Owen. I think it's fine if he talks to Charlie and plays with him at school, but I have to find a way to explain why they can't have play dates or sleepovers, as well as to never to go anywhere near Nate and Paige. I guess that'll come in time. I'll update again if anything happens. I'm hoping this is the end. As some of Nate and Paige's defenders said, they did take my no well. So hopefully they realize how totally out of bounds they were and leave us alone. Update 2, next day. Monday night, I talked to Owen and explained that Nate and Paige were not safe. He was confused, and I explained that they wanted to take him away from me. I think it spooked him as he started crying, saying he didn't want to leave me and he didn't want to see them again. I held him and assured him he wasn't going anywhere. He understands he is never to go anywhere with them and that the school is taking measures to protect him. I said he could still talk and play with Charlie at school. He said he doesn't want to. I was honestly worried he'd hate me, but you all were right. Telling him the full story made him realize how serious it was. He understands the gifts and trips will stop and says he's all right with it. Also, I wanted to address one last thing. I've gotten a few people offering me money or gifts. Please do not do that. I am very appreciative, but that was not the purpose of this post. If you wish to do something, donate to your local shelter or other charity. Owen and I are not in need. I'd rather see it go to people who need it. I didn't see Nate or Paige at drop-off, nor have I gotten any contact, but then again, I did block them everywhere. Thank you all for your help. I'll update if anything else happens, hopefully it won't. Update 3, 4 days later. Well, what everyone feared would happen did. Tuesday, he returned to school. I told him he could still talk with and play with Charlie. I was hesitant to drop him off but figured you can't live in fear. Most afternoon, my son takes the bus to a local rec center for aftercare. I had already told the school everything and that Nate and Paige were not to pick Owen up. I managed to call and even make sure he got on the bus. Aftercare was also made aware of the change in pickup list. Well, a half hour later, I get a call that Paige had tried to pick up my son. The front desk refused to release him. Didn't say why, just that she was no longer on the list. She wouldn't leave and the police were called. She was escorted out of the building. While she wasn't brought to jail, there is a police report, and I am using this to go to court and get an order of protection. Paige and Nate are also banned from the rec center, so if they do show up, they will get arrested for trespassing. The police are working on ways to protect us, and the local social services office has been made aware of the situation. So should they try to make a claim, they're aware of the situation. Relevant comments. Commenter, thank you for the update. I am pulling for you. Great job on getting your ducks in a row at school and after care. They are starting to show their true colors. Please keep a careful eye out and be prepared. Talk with your son some more and make sure he understands a little better to not leave with them. Op response. Thank you. I spoke to him Monday evening, so he knew what he was walking into on Tuesday. It freaked him out a lot and he said he absolutely didn't want to leave me. So, he's aware and knows to never go with them. Update 4, 2.5 years later. I hadn't realized it had fully been nearly 2.5 years since I gave an update to our lives. But I thought about this whole saga recently, found the account, and realized 3K plus of you follow this now. Plus it seems I still get requests for an update. After this happened, I wanted to stay in the area we lived in. If anything, because I couldn't afford to move us. I ended up transferring Owen to a different after-school program. He still remained friends with Charlie at school. Apparently, even Charlie would call his parents weird, and said he was angry with them for making it so Owen couldn't go over there after school. The rest of the year passed by awkwardly, but initially, the school did a good job of making sure Nate and Paige were not anywhere near my son. I was told they wouldn't be allowed to volunteer anymore, as Paige often did, prior to everything. Summer soon came, Owen started his usual camps, and I thought all was well. I had initially been told that the boys would not be put into the same class the following year. It had been too late in the year to move either of the boys, but when I brought Owen to school on the first day, I saw Charlie's name on the door. It's a small school, and they have a unique last name, so I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I spoke with the principal and was told it was impossible to keep them in separate classes, and there were factors I just couldn't possibly understand. I regretfully didn't fight as hard, because I assumed Paige and Nate were still banned from volunteering. It was like a horror movie, receiving a letter from the room moms of the class. Typical letter I receive every year talking about fundraising, volunteer opportunities, when they raise money for teacher gifts, etc. Paige's name was right at the bottom. I once again spoke to the principal and was told that they couldn't keep Paige away from the school. She donated a lot of money, was great with the kids. They said since we had no incidents in 5 months at that point, we had to let it go. I tried to. I thought, maybe things have changed. But it brought me so much anxiety every time I thought about that woman near my son. The school was refusing to protect him. What if things hadn't changed? I debated switching schools, but this was the best in our area, and I couldn't afford private. I prepared my son. He said he wouldn't try to go with her and would scream if she tried to take him. Sure enough, first class party of the year, my son said Paige was there, and Owen said she kept trying to talk to him. She kept asking him to come over and even wanted my new phone number. I changed it for obvious reasons after everything went down. Thankfully, Owen knew better. But I just saw the rest of the year flashing before my eyes. Paige finding ways to be around my son, potentially breaking him down. Since the school didn't give a shit, I had nightmares of them letting her kidnap him. I knew we couldn't stay long, but again, I was broke, working a crap job, and I couldn't just pack up and leave. So I started applying to some new jobs out of our city. As it was, I had one job working in retail, but I picked up house cleaning shifts and occasionally some babysitting shifts in between. I took a chance and applied for a live-in nanny position in a city about 3 hours away. I didn't think I'd have a shot at it, especially as I had a kid. But I met with the parents and they were so kind, so sweet. They were more than happy to let me bring Owen with me and let us live with them. They had an in-law suite I could live in as long as I was working there. It was only one bedroom, but Owen and I were used to that. He was a little sad about leaving his friends, but we zoomed at the opportunity. I admit, I was nervous to put ourselves in a similar situation as before. What if these people enticed my son and wanted to take him? But thankfully, they weren't like that. They were kind to Owen, but they maintained boundaries. I eventually told them our story, and they were horrified that this had ever happened to us, and assured me they would never try to take my son. I was making better money living with them, and since I didn't have rent or utilities to worry about, I was able to save up more than usual. Owen thrived in his new school. The best part was, he got to spend time with me and the little ones I took care of. No more crazy hours, no more after-school programs. After 8 years, we finally caught a break. The family recently outgrew their need for a nanny, but they were happy to help me find a new job. This position isn't live-in, but I was able to save up to put a down payment on a condo. Something I never thought would happen. For the first time in 10 years, Owen has his own room. Something that both excited him, but he was also a little scared. With the help of my old bosses, who are now good friends of ours, we were able to decorate. And my new bosses are so kind and again, totally fine with me bringing their baby with me to pick up Owen and having him around. I haven't heard from Nate and Paige since April 2023. My son occasionally mentions Charlie, and I know he misses his buddy, but he's also relieved about where we are. I hope for Charlie's sake that his parents have calmed down, maybe they've learned their lesson. If anything, so they won't prey on another woman in my situation. I don't speak to anyone from our old city, no friends there, so I have no way of knowing. Sorry if that's not a fun update, but that's where we are. Happy, healthy, and doing well. I'm 26 now, but many days feel like I'm 42. I'm in a new relationship now, dating seriously for the first time since Owen was born. I have a group of friends who are also nannies. It took me 8.5 years to gain a support system. Still haven't spoken to my parents. Owen's father will never be a part of the picture, but we finally have a family. Still, he often tells me that if all of it went away like Nate and Paige did, he'd be happy with just us. God, he knows how to make his mama cry. Anyway, thank you all for the support and concern over the years. Much love to you all. I'm writing this using a throwaway account because I don't want it linked to my regular account. I don't even know why I'm writing this here. Everyone is going to say it's rage bait and I'll get banned. I just did the worst thing that I could possibly do, and I just want to confess to everyone, but I can't. I know for a fact that the most important relationship of my entire life will be ruined. My fiancé, Alex fake name M32 and I F28, have been together for 4 years, and we're supposed to get married on the 28th of December. We had our bachelorette parties last weekend because everyone was in town for the holiday. That's why we're having the wedding on the 28th. Everyone will be here anyway for the holiday, so coming to the wedding won't be a big thing. Alex is everything I want in a man. He's kind. He's funny and charming. He's tall and handsome. He's helpful. He's a leader. He's successful at his work with a great future. He's really thoughtful. One time, we were shopping and I looked at this butterfly decoration just in passing, and later on I got it for my birthday. He remembered that I liked it and went back and bought it for me and surprised me with it. Our sex life is very satisfying to me, and I think to him as well. He's not perfect, of course, and we have our disagreements like any other couple, but we're great together. I feel safe and loved with him. When we first got together, the subject of our past partners came up. I didn't have a lot of past partners as all my relationships were long-term. I had 3 boyfriends before Alex. The previous one was Jake, fake name. Jake was gorgeous. He had a very magnetic personality and always dominated whatever room he walked into. I felt so lucky when he chose me to be his girlfriend. We had a very intense physical connection that I sort of lost myself in. In every other way, Jake was terrible. He cheated on me. He stood me up on multiple occasions. He forgot important events like my birthday and my best friend's engagement party. I finally broke up with him. He didn't seem to really care about it, though, which hurt. He just ghosted me when I said enough. The reason I mention this is because I told Alex about Jake. At first, he didn't connect the dots, but when I described Jake, he asked me if it was Jake, last name. I said, "How do you know?" And he told me that Jake had stolen his girlfriend from high school when they were all freshmen in college. It really hurt Alex, as he thought he would marry this girl. Jake later dumped her and she tried to get back with Alex, but Alex rejected her, telling me that she was disgusting. Alex was quiet around me for a few days after that, but he came around thankfully. During my bachelorette party last weekend, one of my bridesmaids, Claire fake name, invited a bunch of our old friend group to the Airbnb we were renting as a surprise. I thought they had all moved away, but they showed up and yes, you guessed it, Jake was there too. I was pretty drunk, but I can't say I didn't know what I was doing. Jake was still really good looking and he talked only to me that night. He only flirted with me and no one else. He was charming and my inhibitions were down and we eventually went to a bedroom and we had sex. The next morning I was mortified. I told Jake that it meant nothing and he needed to leave and not get in contact with me again. Jake told me that he changed and was a serious person and serious about me. I told him to go and to please just shut up and leave. He seemed sad but he left. I made sure to make him swear to forget about it all, and he did swear. I told Claire to keep quiet about it and to not tell anyone about Jake. She was the only one who really knew about our past relationship, as she was part of the friend group. She agreed and said it was no big deal and one last fling before marriage. I think she was the only one who saw us go back to the bedroom, but I can't be sure. All I know is that Jake and I were the least drunk people there, and we were pretty drunk. Meanwhile, it's been eating at me all the time. I can't sleep or eat. I'm afraid my wedding dress will be too big for me because I have this fear in the pit of my stomach, and I throw up when I think about Jake and what I did, which is all the time I think about it all the time. I have to confess to someone, so I think a bunch of internet strangers is the easiest way to do it. I know I'm terrible and I know I effed this up. I can't lose Alex. Why didn't I think of him when I was there last Saturday? Why didn't I consider Alex? I'm such a fucking idiot. He's the best thing that ever happened to me and Jake is the worst. Alex has started to notice my changed attitude. I lied to him again and told him that I think I'm coming down with the flu and that he should stay away for a few days. Meanwhile, I'm crying my eyes out in bed, and Alex is being his usual great self and bringing me homemade chicken noodle soup his mom made. I can't tell him, but I can't stand this. Does it go away over time? Feel free to demean me, I deserve it. It's not fake or rage bait. I honestly wish it was. I wish this was just a nightmare. Update. Alex found out and he's done with me. I wanted to update everyone who read my original post, even though it's humiliating and painful. The truth is out, Alex knows, and the consequences have been worse than I could have imagined. I have no one to blame but myself. Thursday evening, Alex didn't come home after work. I thought maybe he was staying late, but around 9 p.m. I got a text from him. It was a photo of me and Jake kissing at my bachelorette party. No words, just the photo. I panicked and immediately texted Claire, asking if she told Alex. She replied that he deserved to know the truth. I don't think she did it to be malicious. Maybe she was feeling guilty herself, but at that moment I was freaking out. I started spamming Alex's phone with calls and texts, begging him to talk to me. He left me on read. Then I logged onto social media and saw that Alex had posted that our wedding was canceled because the woman I thought I was marrying turned out to be someone I didn't know. People started calling and messaging me, asking what was going on. I didn't know what to say. I panicked and lied, telling them we had a huge argument but that we were working it out. Meanwhile, Alex was replying to comments under his post, saying things like, "She knows what she did, and there's nothing left to say." Friday night, Jake showed up at my apartment. He said he was sorry, claimed he didn't know Alex was my fiancé, and tried to explain himself. I told him it didn't matter. What we did ruined the best thing in my life, and I wanted Jake gone. I told him to leave and not come back. He tried to linger, saying something about how we could figure this out, but I slammed the door on him. He makes my skin crawl. Then, on Saturday morning, the hammer dropped. Alex's older brother, Mark, showed up with two of Alex's groomsmen. They knocked, came in, and started packing up Alex's things, his clothes, his personal items, even some of the furniture that belonged to him. I tried to talk to them, begging them to tell me where Alex was or how I could reach him, but they just ignored me or told me they didn't know where he was, which was probably a lie. Mark kept repeating that there was nothing to talk about. When they were done, Mark told me that Alex wanted me to keep the engagement ring. He said Alex didn't want it back because he had no use for it, and selling it wouldn't make up for what had happened. He also told me Alex would be sending a check to cover my share of the cancelled wedding costs, and that his half of the lease was paid for. I begged Mark to at least put Alex on the phone with me, and that he deserved some kind of closure by yelling at me, and I'd at least be able to apologize where he could hear my voice. He just said Alex has all the closure he needs, and to stop contacting him and just leave him alone, and I've done enough. Mark used to be so kind to me, like a big brother. He was excited about the wedding, calling himself the future crazy uncle. Now he was cold and distant, talking like I was a stranger. That was when it really hit me. Alex was gone and my life was gone too. I can't afford to stay in the apartment. Alex paid the rent and utilities while I handled groceries, cooking, and chores. I don't make enough as a personal trainer to cover everything on my own, and I let my certifications lapse months ago because we planned on me being a traditional stay-at-home wife and mother after the wedding, which is something I really wanted. I've started packing my things and will be moving back in with my parents. I haven't told them the full story yet, just that the wedding is off. They've been supportive, but I know the full conversation is coming, and it's going to be excruciating. My friends are avoiding me, too. Some have unfollowed me on social media, and Claire hasn't responded to any of my messages since she told Alex. I don't even know how to begin rebuilding my life from this. I've lost everything that mattered to me because of one selfish, stupid decision. Alex was my rock, my future, and the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it all away for nothing. I betrayed him in the worst way possible, and I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. He won't even talk to me. It's driving me crazy that I can't at least apologize to him in person. To Michael, real name, I know you'll never see this. I'm sorry. I know my apology means nothing, but I'll regret what I did for the rest of my life. You deserved so much better, and I failed you in every way that mattered. I know that when I'm old and gray, even if I find someone else, you'll always be in my heart. I love you to the moon and back, and I don't think I'll ever be able to love someone else the way I love you. There will always be some part of me that's always yours. Now, I have to figure out how to pick up the pieces. My life as I knew it is gone, and I have no one to blame but myself. Stop messaging me. I'm not reading them anyway. I've lost everything. There's no way you can make me feel worse than I already do. I'm barely hanging on to the will to live here. So I'm in a bit of a weird situation. My fiancé and I aren't the most traditional and wanted to have our wedding as more of a family vacation with the bonus of a wedding. My parents have a beautiful lakefront house that we decided to have our wedding at. When we were initially planning our wedding and figuring out dates, I wanted to have it on June 26th. The 26th was important to us because that's the day my fiancé and I first met. But when speaking it over to my family, my sister said no, because she already had a vacation on that date. I was sad, but it wasn't the end of the world, so we decided on June 4th to June 9th. Everything was working out perfectly. I let both of our families know to put our wedding down for those dates and started wedding planning. It was all perfect until last night. I got a FaceTime from my dad who showed me the ultrasound, and I was super excited. All of the congratulations, jumping around because I'm going to be an auntie. I am so excited for them and for my future niece or nephew. But it all came crashing down when I asked my sister when she is due, and she said, May 1st, so we're going to have to talk about your wedding. I assumed she just meant that she wasn't going to be able to be in attendance. So I told them that it's okay, we can just FaceTime them in, and her jaw dropped. Then my mom said we can just push it back to September. I knew my emotions would get the best of me, so I said we can talk about it later, so we went back to congratulations and thinking of baby names. After the call, I can't lie, I had a bit of a breakdown. I already moved my dates once to accommodate my sister, which was all fine, and I didn't push back on it. But after 7 months of planning, our wedding around this date, and having my fiancé family plan around it, I don't want to change it. Unfortunately, I know my family, and they will push for me to move it, and will disrespect my decision not to. I know traveling with a newborn baby is going to be hard, which is why I offer up FaceTiming her in, but it seems like that's offensive to them, to not want my sister to be present at the wedding. I feel so insanely guilty about being upset over having to change my wedding dates, because my sister is pregnant. She's bringing a beautiful new family member into our lives. but I'm still a bit heartbroken that if I don't change the wedding date, that I will be seen as inconsiderate and an asshole in my family. So am I the asshole for not wanting to punch back my wedding because my sister is pregnant? Relevance comments. Commenter 1. NTA, I'd move it back to the 26th because that's the day that matters to you and your fiancé. Now she'll only want to go if she can bring the baby, or she'll probably try and get you to move it even further, saying, so she's not traveling with a newborn. Obviously, people are going to be upset no matter what you do or don't do. But all that really matters is you and your fiancé, because the moment y'all are married, you're each other's main priorities, and no one else should matter when it comes to what you both want. Op response. I'm very scared of that. Since she is going to be a first-time mama, we don't know if she's going to have PPD or if baby is going to have colic. I'm scared that if I do push back our wedding to August or September, and then she still can't make it, wants us to push it back even further, I will resent and distance myself from her. I love my sister so much, but she is definitely the type of person where it is her way or the highway, and my parents just go with it because that's just how she is. Commenter 2. Tell us your sister is the golden child without saying it. Op response. My sister is the golden child of the family. It's not really a secret or tried to be hidden. She's extremely involved in the family, visits them every weekend while I live across the country, so I only visit them typically once a year, but do FaceTime them regularly. My parents are also very money-driven, and my sister is a doctor in comparison to my brother, and I who do trades. She's the definition of the perfect child. She also typically plans all trips, vacations, or outings for my family, because she's extremely type A and likes to have control situations. She's a bit stubborn and likes things her way or not at all. We've always just gone with it because it's easier. I expected my wedding to be the line, but I guess not. Update 8 days later. So a lot has happened in the past few days. I called my brother the day after I made my post. He understood where I was coming from and told me that I should absolutely not change my wedding date. So since I was worried about speaking to my mom and being ganged up on, we planned on when to speak to my mom about not wanting to change my fiancé's and I's wedding dates, so he could be there to talk to my mom on my behalf, and my emotions got the best of me. That didn't happen. My mom called me the next day to talk it over. I informed her that I was not going to change my wedding date, and she was upset initially but surprisingly receptive to it. I was extremely happy about that until she said, "You need to talk to your sister about this, because she's not going to be happy about being forced out 1 month postpartum." I explained I wasn't expecting forcing her to be in attendance. Then my mom said, "No, she's coming to your wedding. I don't care if she's a new mom." After that, I got in a bit of an argument with my mom about her forcing my sister to do something that isn't the best for her and her future family, which I ended hanging up on her. I don't take being spoken to in a harsh tone easily, and will tell the other person to take a minute to reevaluate their tone and come back. During the call, she also let slip that she was also extremely disappointed in me for going to my brother for support instead of her, and said I was just creating family drama for no reason. Which it is what it is. I needed a family perspective, which is why I called my brother. I ended up trying to call my sister the next day, which was declined. So I texted her and informed her that I would not be changing my wedding dates. It was a lot longer of a text, explains reasons and emotions. She replied a day later with, "You and I both know that your wedding dates aren't officially set, and the only factor would be communicating the change to fiancé's family. I hope the hassle is worth having my and your literal niece or nephew's presence." I explained that I have already put money down on multiple things, as well as having my fiancé's family planning around this date for 7 months. She was not receptive in my opinion and said, "There are really no excuses. You have the power to move the date even just a little later in the summer to include me, and you're choosing not to. That hurts." Which I ended up responding that I am not choosing to not have her at my wedding, but understand she may not be able to come and will have to FaceTime in instead, as well as explain that I already moved my wedding date once to accommodate her. I asked her to try to put herself in my shoes and how she would have felt if I asked to push back her wedding, which she replied, "I would have moved my date in a heartbeat. That's the difference between us." At that point, I decided to offer up pushing it back to the 26th of June, as some comments said to see if she would still be going to her previously planned vacation, which thank God I did, because she told me she couldn't do the 26th as she's still going to go on her vacation 20 days after the wedding. I'm not the most knowledgeable about babies, but I don't feel like there's a huge difference between traveling with a 1-month-old and a 1.5-month-old. So that solidified in my mind that she doesn't care about me and my fiancé or our feelings, but still expects everyone to accommodate to her. At this point, As per my fiancé's advice, I'm putting it in the F-it drawer in my head, and I'm not going to stress about it anymore because everyone knows the date is set. If my family would like to show up to my wedding, that would be amazing, but if not, I'm not going to be upset. At the end of the day, this will just show me who to prioritize as family in my life, because family is not always blood. Relevance comments. Commenter 1, good for you. As you said, this isn't about your wedding date or about her attendance. It's about your important date being so near her due date, and she's upset that her baby won't the center of attention. Even if she brings baby to your wedding, everyone will remember that baby met people at the wedding, instead of coming to her home where she can hold court as new mommy. Op response. Funny enough, her mother-in-law will be attending my wedding. It's an extremely short list. Just family and their so's. Then my aunt and uncle, and my sister's mother-in-law and her brother-in-law, because my fiancé and I bonded with them at my sister's wedding. I understand it's not exactly the same because she doesn't know them, but my fiancé's family loves babies and have tried to be a foster family in the past, and my soon-to-be mother-in-law was a nanny for a living for 10+ years, so it's not like she won't be celebrated as a new mom or have extra help if she wants it. She will have everything if she wants to attend, but is choosing to push back because I assume it's not to her perfect plan. Update 10 days later. So this update is absolutely comical to me. As I said in my previous update, I stood strong and told my family I was planning on keeping my wedding dates. Which didn't go well, but at least I had my parents' support on it. Everything was as calm and relaxed as it could be. My sister hasn't talked to me since the conversation, but I figured she was just pissed off at me and dealing with everything involving pregnancy. But getting to the hilarious part of this update, 2 days ago we got a FaceTime from my fiancé's sister-in-law showing us 2 positive pregnancy tests. She's due first week of June when our wedding is. My fiancé and I did all of the congratulations and excitement because once again first grandchild and baby in the family. After the call, my fiancé and I just looked at each other and busted out laughing. Not only is my sister having the first grandbaby on my side, but his sister-in-law is having the first grandbaby on his side, all within the month before during our wedding. Like, what are the chances? My fiancé and I have always had bad luck with planning things, aka why we were planning on a relaxed chill wedding instead of a big extravagant wedding. We had a few minutes convo, and it ended up with us agreeing on, in my finances words, fuck this, let's just elope. So that's exactly what we're doing. Like I said, we aren't traditional, and honestly we were just doing all of this for our families so they could feel included and have a fun time at the lake house. But with all the babies and 9 out of the 14 people who are invited not being able to attend, my sister and brother-in-law, her mother-in-law and brother-in-law, my fiancé's mom, dad, and little sister, and his brother and sister-in-law, why even have the whole wedding thing? So we're going to the courthouse on June 26th, the date that I originally wanted, but wouldn't work with my sister's scheduled vacation to go get married. We're going to keep the photographer that we have a deposit down on and just switch from wedding photos to just a couple's shoot. We're also still planning on going to the lake house and just take it as a pre-honeymoon. We've already let all of our family know the whole wedding thing is canceled. My side is relieved, and his side is sad because they don't have an opportunity to celebrate us as a couple. But it just wasn't what the universe wanted, and we'll plan something in the next couple of years to get our families all together and celebrate. Maybe one of our anniversary. Honestly, I can't even be upset because it's so comical that the one major event we've been planning on doesn't work because of everyone getting pregnant and being due around or during our wedding. But at the end of the day, we're getting married and getting some adorable lil nieces or nephews. This will be my last update because no more wedding means no more drama. Relevance comments. Commenter. I get why his brother and sister-in-law can't attend, but why can't the rest of your fiancé's family members attend? Anyways, congrats. I told my BF I'm always down to elope cause a big wedding is more trouble than it's worth for me personally. Op response. I thought we were getting rid of the big wedding drama by just having our direct family plus 4 extras there, but it didn't work out that way. Still all the drama, so eloping is definitely the right option lol. The people that can't attend would be my sister and her husband there, having a baby in May. It's their first child, and it would be a 5-hour drive to get out to the lake house. My sister mother-in-law and brother-in-law, my fiancé and I got close to them at my sister's wedding trip, week-long trip in Jamaica. Then my soon-to-be brother-in-law and sister-in-law, since they are having a baby during our used-to-be wedding dates. His mom, dad, and sister, because they would definitely want to at least be close to brother-in-law and sister-in-law, while she's having the first grandbaby. The lake house is about a 19-hour drive from where they live.